Hey there guys, it's Kenzi here. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I am a full-time self-employed writer. Writing's what I do. Normally I write solo, but I do work with a lot of businesses who seem to write with a department or a committee. So you've got probably 10 people in a Google Doc at once trying to make these changes. And honestly, it gets really messy. It gets really freaking messy. And at the end of this process, you're like frustrated with your coworkers and you're left with this weird Franken blog that doesn't read very well. And it's not good for anybody, right? It's just not good. So here's what I, a professional writer who sees this all the time, recommends that you do if you have to write with other people in a group. First things first, assign a leader. Somebody has to be the ringleader of this circus, and it's probably going to be you. There always needs to be somebody who has ultimate authority or the final say. They're the ones who are calling the shots and can decide when the process is over, the rules, just to have somebody that everyone goes back to as a single source of truth. The second thing, so this is primarily for people who work in Google Docs, but you can apply it to anything, and that is to collect all of your feedback at once. It just irks me so bad when we've done a round of editing and we're making the edits and then another person pops up out of the blue and says, oh wait, I didn't get a chance to put my edits in. So you need to have everybody review it at the same time before you start making more edits. So that way you get everyone's feedback all at once and it's just a lot cleaner that way. I try to make it very clear what round of editing you're on. So if you use a project management tool like Asana, say, hey, we're doing round 2 of editing. This is the final round of editing. Everybody needs to have their feedback in by Friday at noon. If you don't, tough cookies. And that sounds kind of harsh, but you have to be very structured and organized if you want to write as a committee without losing your mind. The next thing is to set a date for finishing the piece. Guys, let's see, it's November right now. I have seen people who are still munching on content that we wrote last January. It's crazy. The difficult thing about writing is that it's an art. Art is never perfect, especially when you have all these cooks in the kitchen who are contributing their thoughts on grammar, structure, ideas. It's never going to be done. It's never going to be perfect, but you need to move on with your life, right? So whoever the leader is needs to pick a date and when the project will actually be done. I like to say posted is better than perfect. The last thing is managing permissions. So let's say everybody's put in their feedback for edits, they've left their comments. I don't know why people do this, but sometimes as you're editing something, a team member will come back in and try to add more edits after they've already left their feedback. And it almost leads to like this piranha attack of edits where we're not clear what's going on or what edits have been made, what needs to be made. It's very confusing. So if you don't want that to happen, and you shouldn't, you should revoke edit access on the piece while you're making the changes. And again, the reason for this is so that way people don't come in and change stuff while you're mid-edit, while you're reworking stuff, while the piece isn't really ready for someone else to see. So I don't always recommend writing as a group because it can get really messy, but I understand why people need to do it. You should keep in mind that it will slow down the process and sometimes it does lead to worse content. So if you don't want that to happen to you, but you have to write with other people, have some kind of a process and leadership and format in place. The main thing here is to stay organized and be really thoughtful about how you guys are approaching the actual process of writing instead of just the content by itself.